Hello and welcome to the SATLUJ podcast. 41 years ago today, Beant Singh and Satwant Singh avenged the massacre of tens of thousands of innocent men, women and children in the Golden Temple by shooting dead the architect of that atrocity, Indira Gandhi. But what unfolded over the following days was another atrocity that dwarfed the killings of Operation Blue Star. It became known as the Sikh genocide, when the Indian government actively encouraged mobs of Hindus to rampage through India's cities and attack, torture and even burn alive any Sikh that they could find, men, women and even children. All watched over imperiously by an uninterfering police force. Sadly, this genocide is not the only one suffered by the Sikh people since 1947. So to examine in more detail the long litany of outrages perpetrated against Sikhs by the Indian state, I'm joined today by our regular guest, Dr. BS Sandhu. Dr. Sandhu, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again today.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, for having me on your program.
Always a pleasure. Now, Dr. Sandhu, in 1947, the British withdrew from India after dividing the Indian subcontinent into three by drawing arbitrary lines across their former colony. Now, one of those lines ran through the middle of Punjab, and what followed was one of the largest human migrations ever seen. Could you perhaps tell us what happened during that period?
Okay, Mr. Scott, what happened was that at the time of partition of the land mass now called India, there were three entities: Sikhs, Hindus, and Muslims. Each one of them wanted their own country. However, the Sikh leadership did not pursue strongly the formation of a Punjab country or Punjab state as a separate entity. So what happened was the British then divided Punjab into two halves. One went to Pakistan and the other went to India. The Sikhs decided to go to India because of the promises made by the Congress party at that time that will give you autonomy, will give you religious freedom, will give you all sorts of rights. But what happened was, after 1947, the next year, they took 180-degree turn. They reneged from all the promises they had made, and then the Sikhs were left holding the bag. And the Sikhs were also told by Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister of India at that time, that the train for Punjab freedom is gone, is left the station. So the Sikhs tried a lot to get their rights, but every time the Sikhs speak for their rights, for equality, for justice, for their natural resources protection, and they are called terrorists and separatists, and they are called all sorts of bad names. Regarding the migration that happened in 1947, it was man-made, one of the biggest man-made disasters. It could have been prevented. The British government and Congress at the time, they knew there was coming, that people will migrate and they will be attacking each other's throat, but they didn't stop it. They knew all very well that this will be a huge migration, but they were hurrying up to take control of India, their country. They didn't care about Sikhs or parts of Punjab. All they wanted to do was get freedom and get their positions. And the Punjab at that time was thrown under the bus. And after that, what happened? We all know in great details, and we'll discuss about that India not only took over Punjab, they also started attacking Sikh identity and Sikh religious institutions. That's what the state of affairs is today. And while the genocide is ongoing, it has taken a different form, in the form of transnational repression, transnational assassinations, and economic deprivation, flooding Punjab whenever India wants, and that's still going on.
So, of course, this betrayal of 1947 that we've often talked about, it did actually then lead to this sort of fight back by the Sikh people. They felt, of course, deeply betrayed. Their culture was under attack. And this in turn led on to the growth of the Suba movement, this sort of movement that I understand was built around the fact of Sikh cultural identity, and particularly its language, its own language. So the Suba movement grew. Of course, it was tended naturally, as it would be, focused on Amritsar, on the Golden Temple. And this then really set the scene for what followed over many years and in fact decades. And I want to specifically look at one event in 1955. This was an attack on the Darbar Sahib in Amritsar in July 1955. Could you talk us through really what that was about and the context of all that time?
Okay, so what India did was, following 1947, before they were making all those promises. But when India's constitution came into being, and it had three very important things. Number one, they didn't recognize Punjab as a state. Number two, they didn't recognize Sikhism as a religion. Number three, they didn't recognize Punjabi as a language or people of Punjab. So with these three things, they started dismantling, as efforts of dismantling Punjab. They denied Sikh religious identity, and they started attacking Sikhs. What happened in 1955, 4th of July, that Sikhs were peacefully demonstrating, demanding formation of Punjab state. It was not a demand of Punjab as a country. It was just recreation of the Punjab state as an independent state, as other states were formed. But India refused. And India vehemently refused the formation of Punjab state. They were thinking that if the Sikhs become too strong, they may ask for a bigger area or go after India. But that was totally contrived. They had just made up the narrative, false narrative. The Sikhs have and never had any intention of taking over India, because we don't want to, get involved in India's affairs and the people living in India. We just want to protect Punjab. So they attacked Golden Temple, Darbar Sahib, in 1955, killing 200 Sikhs, and some of them were burnt alive. So what they do was they kill Sikhs and then they burn them. So there's no record left. There's no record who was killed, where they came from, how many they were. And that's a modus operandi still going on in India. And that has been getting worse, not any better, since 1947.
So then, and let's even move the clock forward. So we have, of course, this terrible attack in the mid-1950s, which to some degree sort of managed to quell some of the dissent. But of course, the tension was always still there. The Sikh people in Punjab were still unhappy with what was going on and this clear oppression by the Indian state. And that did then lead on into the 1970s, the early 1970s. Of course, this started to focus more into what eventually became the Anandpur Resolution, this collection of demands, and they were all reasonable demands for basic, at least some level of autonomy over the decision making over the Punjab, so that Sikh people could be allowed to have more control over the water supplies, the riparian rights, and many others. So this long list of fairly basic and very reasonable demands of Delhi to allow the Sikh people in Punjab at least some decision making over their own rights. But then, of course, in 1978, the massacres continued. I'm specifically now looking at the Nirankari massacre that occurred in April 1978. This is very indicative of what was still going on, and again, very indicative of, for example, the Indian state being a little bit more devious in its methodology against the Sikh people. Can you talk through the Nirankari massacre and what happened around that time?
Okay, Mr. Scott, that's a good point. See, Sikhs wanted equal rights. They were not, at that time, asking for country of Punjab. So in this process of repression and suppression of Sikhs happened, as you had mentioned, the Nirankari massacre of Sikhs. That was on April 13, 1978. And in that, 62 culprits were charged, and the trial took place out of Punjab. Why they did out of Punjab? The decision of the case was pre-decided. So they knew what they're going to do and what they're going to how they're going to move the decision. So in that case, which was held outside Punjab and Haryana, 62 Nirankaris were charged, and they were all set free. They were not punished, and their head was not arrested when the summons were issued. So then the Sikhs at that time were being partly led by Sanjay Singh Ji Pindrawale. So there was only one Sikh leader who spoke up about the Nirankari massacre of Sikhs, and he said, look, 13 people are basically killed point blank in the daylight, and nothing is being done. So from that started the rise of the movement of independence of Punjab, because at that time Sikhs under the leadership of Sant Jarnail Singh Ji Bhindranwale realized they had no option other than getting Punjab as a country liberated from India. So at that time, then there was a attack on Darbar Sahib Golden Temple, Amritsar, which was pre-planned anyway. So all the massacres of the Sikhs, they were pre-planned. Even the 1978 massacre was connivance of Punjab government, connivance with the Indian government, and it was done in collaboration with each other to punish Sikhs, to weaken Sikhs, to repress, and basically attack their religious identity. So they're all being performed in a systematic, pre-planned fashion.
So then, as this actually sort of conveniently leads on to really one of the most seminal years in Sikh history, that is, of course, 1984. And the events that you talked about, of course, the Sikh people started to rally around the focal point of Bhindranwale Ji. And he then obviously moved to the Akal Takht in the Golden Temple complex. And he sought sanctuary in this central part of Sikhi, of the Sikh faith. And one would assume, naturally, he would feel safe. He would feel he was in the deepest, safest sanctuary that would be available to him. But of course, then we do know, obviously, what happened in June 1984. And as I said, these events of 1984 form this nexus point. Up until this point, the Khalistan movement itself wasn't so clear cut. It was more about, we just want more autonomous control over our own decision making, as demanded by the Anandpur resolution. But it was these events in 1984 that really changed the attitude, I would say, of the Sikh people. It moved away from just some autonomous rights into a much more clearer idea that we actually need our own sovereign nation. We do need our own nation that we have full control of. So I want to talk through, and we talked in the introduction, I talked about through the genocidal attitude of the Indian state. Can you talk through the events of 1984, both in June and of course November? Can you talk through how you feel those events how they unfolded, and how they then shaped the attitude of the Sikh people going forward after that moment?
So Indian government invaded Darbar Sahib, Golden Temple, Amritsar, in June 1984. This attack was pre-planned, and they had made a replica of a Golden Temple, Amritsar, in the mountains. They were trying, and the day they attacked, they simultaneously attacked 37 other gurdwaras. So their narrative was that we want to capture Sant Jarnail Singh Ji Bhindranwale. But that was not the only idea, because Sant Jarnail Singh Ji Bhindranwale was outspoken for the Sikh rights. He was a Sikh preacher. He wants Sikhs to become good Sikhs. And he also stated, let's all follow our religion. A Hindu should be a good Hindu. A Muslim should be a good Muslim. And Sikh should be a good Sikh. That was his message. But the idea of the Indian government was to harm Sikh identity and destroy Sikh cultural and religious institutions. So they planned this attack. 10,000 Sikhs were shot at the point blank range. And they were all pilgrims. So similarly, in 1984, November, after the assassination of Indira Gandhi, because she had attacked Golden Temple, in which 10,000 Sikhs were killed, Indian government at that time also had a plan. So she was assassinated on October 31st. Same evening, the Indian government officials, Indian religious leaders, Indian Congress party leaders, they had a meeting. And one thing very important for Sikhs to know is that while they gathered there and made a plan to kill Sikhs starting the next morning, there was November 1, there was undercurrent. The Indian government, the Indian national narrative had created an undercurrent that Sikhs must be harmed, the Sikhs must be put to place because they were getting more influence in the country of India, because they're becoming economically strong, they were becoming politically strong, but to basically to hurt the Sikh psyche and break the backbone of Sikhs, they carried out these attacks. And these attacks, specifically in Delhi, starting from November 1st, 1984, it was connivance of Indian government. Indian government provided transportation, they provided fuel, they provided money, they provided alcohol, incendiary powders like phosphorus. The phosphorus, if you place on somebody, it will catch fire instantaneously. And gang rape of Sikh women violently, and now there's a widow colony. The challenge to the Sikhs is Sikhs should know that there's a widow colony of Sikh people, the women, the widows in Delhi. That's intolerable. That's not acceptable. That should basically be corrected. We have to take justice. And the Sikh people have to know that they are being attacked. They need to be proactive. They don't only have to defend themselves, but if they're not proactive, how they're going to protect themselves? If the attack has already happened, if the attack is in the preparation stage, then it's too late. The Sikhs have to organize better. They have to know what's happening. They have to coalesce. They have to get together and form the formulas. And they should look at what's happening to them, how they're being attacked. They're being attacked by an Indian government, RSS, and other Hindu nationalist organizations in Punjab, everywhere in the world. There's ongoing Sikh transnational repression and assassination. But Sikh for Justice has taken a leading role to expose India. But all the Sikh nation, all the Sikh people should support even more. Sikhs for Justice has the mandate of the Sikh nation. But I am saying that every Sikh should be strongly supporting such causes as independence of Punjab, as religious identity, protection, and propagation. And now our work is cut out. Our work is on our hands. So this is what you're supposed to do. You have to stand up and stand out. So I'm talking about Sikh nationalism. So let's say the Sikhs being attacked from each side. Sikhs are being attacked economically. They are being attacked religiously. Our religious institutions are under attack. Similarly, identity is under attack. Economy is under attack. Our farmers, our youth, our women are under attack. So what are we going to do? We have to be proactive. We have to plan ahead, not only in protection, but we should be proactive in stopping the plans which hurt Sikhs in their tracks. So what the Hindu organizations are doing, they are widespread. They have a lot of influence in America. So what they are doing is they are basically threatening, the Hindutva forces are threatening professors, schools, institutions, and they are changing their narrative. They are changing their books. They are changing Hindu philosophy. They are changing basically Hindu history. Their mythology is a process. They basically are living in the imagined past, and they also create imagined. Basically, they want to wash out what has been wrong with the RSS and Indian system. They want to wash out and start from the clean state. But that's not going to go away because we are exposing them. The whole world knows how India operates, how there's an attack on, or there are attacks on other people, on other nations, on other people's religions, or they're infiltrating in foreign institutions, they're infiltrating in foreign governments, their political system, their social system. So the whole world has come to know, and now they're being exposed. This is the way is to stop the injustice, inequality, in the world, which is being threatened by RSS forces and many other Hindu organizations.
And I think it's worth reminding our audience, and for those who might not even be aware of the full extent of that oppression that occurred post-1984. Of course, then what followed was the militancy, as they call it, which effectively was this self-defensive movement on behalf of the Sikh people to try and prevent tens of thousands, if not even hundreds of thousands, of extrajudicial killings of young Sikh men through the 1980s and 1990s. And of course, that proved the point, sadly, that the Sikh people could not beat the Indian state militarily. They were up against an enemy that was just obviously too powerful and well-resourced. So that has then evolved into more recent years. Of course, the whole Khalistan movement, for example, has become a much more peaceful, much more democratic and much more 21st century movement, which is why it's proving so successful. I just want to look at for example, the farmers' bills back in the early 2020s and of course the farmers' protests. And there has been accusations from the Indian state saying those farmers' protests were hijacked by the Khalistan movement. But it's not quite as simple as that, is it? Because those farmers' movements are inherently involved in the whole concept of Khalistan. Could you talk about how important the farmers' protests were in this whole idea of Khalistan?
What Indian government wants to do, they want to harm Sikhs religiously, politically, and economically. So in order to harm the Sikhs and people of Punjab economically, they started taking land away from Punjab. They had made previous rules in which they limited the amount of land people can purchase or own. So the farmers' protest was to basically block and cancel annulment of the 3 farm laws. Under those farm laws, Indian government will have big corporations lease the land, and then it was not conditioned upon that you pay a pre-cent rent or lease price. There was a lot of caveats, in which means that if the crop is not good, they will not buy it. If the crop is not proper quality, they will not buy it. So there were so many things in it to harm the farmers of Punjab. And there were peaceful protests, and everybody supported it. This was so strong that the Modi government had to annul these 3 farm laws after the first referendum vote for Khalistan referendum to liberate Punjab from Indian occupation. And that voting happened on October 31st, 2021, and had to be null. Because, as I had mentioned before, India is trying every means to basically repress and suppress Sikhs economically and physically. But the Sikhs have woken up because the attack on Darbar Sahib and the Sikh genocide has shook up Sikh psyche. Yeah, what is happening to Sikhs? What is India doing? We got to speak up and speak out, stand up and stand out. This is not going away. So Sikhs have realized that now is the time to get justice. And I want to talk about here how the Sikhs are organizing themselves. So the Sikhs are promoting strongly the idea of Sikh nationalism. So what is Sikh nationalism? Sikh nationalism is just like the Hindu nationalism, but Sikh nationalism is totally different. Sikh nationalism is to protect Sikhs, to protect their identity, to protect their religion, to protect their religious institutions, for economic prosperity, for education of their children, and increase the population. Sikhs must increase the population, and the Sikh nationalism is not. Sikh nationalism is not about religious supremacy or ethnic superiority or taking other people's rights. Sikh nationalism is to make Sikh nation strong so they can serve the world and serve the community and humanity, whichever way is required. Sikhs are ready to deploy if in case of floods or wars or natural disasters to provide aid to the people, provide food, provide whatever is necessary. That is Sikh nationalism. But Sikh nationalism is not about taking other people's rights or repressing other people, because they have never done that. Sikh history speaks for itself. We are in the service of humanity in any way, wherever, whenever the need arises, we go there.
I think that's an interesting distinction, actually, that, as you say, the Sikh philosophy and the whole concept of Khalistan is not about supremacy. It is about equality, which stands in direct contrast, of course, to the Hindutva idea of a supreme Hindu Rashtra, a supreme Hindu people. So what I also find very interesting is the methodology of how both sides are going about this. Of course, the Sikh people are going about it in a very peaceful, democratic way. They are asking democratically for a Khalistan through the referendum, as opposed to and compared to the RSS and the Hindutva idea and methodology, which is they're using violence, they're using literal terrorism to push their agenda. Can you talk quickly then about this contrast of methodologies? We have the peaceful democratic movement of Khalistan, and we have the violence, the terrorism of Hindutva through transnational repression.
Okay, so Mr. Scott, hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so what has been happening is that India always puts forward the narrative of nonviolence and tolerance. However, that's totally false narrative. That's totally false mythological process in which is confusing people. Or India, we are very peaceful people. But that has changed now. And so I want to give you the proof that how the world has been thinking about India as being intolerant and violent place. So I'm going to read you about something that a very famous German philosopher, Albert Schweitzer, he said, he has this to say, that the great command not to kill and not to injure living creatures plays no part in their scriptures. Hindu, the so-called preacher of nonviolence, belongs to the most violent society on earth. And that was German philosopher. And he said that in 1980s. At the same time, let's say, I'm going to give another example. According to Dr. Romila Thapar, an upper caste Hindu, the head of history department of India's foremost university, Jawaharlal Nehru in Delhi. There was the Jawaharlal Nehru University and the Department of History, and Dr. Romila Thapar. She said this: intolerance is implicit in the practice of untouchability, and in the historical texts there are many references to persecution of Buddhas and Jains by Hindu kings. And she said, today we need only to refer to multitude of persecutions, physical attacks, and outright massacres promoted by Hindus and carried out against Sikhs, Muslims, and black untouchables in India. So she said that it was in the 1980s also. So these are the people, even the people who are prominent in the Indian universities and the German philosopher, they are saying these things. And all these things I'm quoting is on page 47. The name of the book is The Black Untouchables of India. It's written by V.T. Rajeshkar. So this is basically what people think of India's past. And the future is even more bleak, because now India is economically a stronger country than before, and now have reached over the whole world, and this basically carrying out repression, persecution, intimidation, coercion, and also they are basically attacking the America's institutions, professors, students, and universities who talk about equal rights and justice.
So then, Dr. Sandhu, really as a final question, in your mind, what is the answer to this? What is the final solution to this?
I think, Mr. Scott, the solution is the Sikhs must become proactive. Now the Sikhs are basically reacting. How the Sikhs can be proactive? They basically form stronger institutions. They should support the institutions that support the Sikh rights and equal justice and human equality, social equality. And they should support these institutions for their own good. We are not promoting any violence. We absolutely don't promote any other activities which are basically not supporting equal rights, human equality. So Sikhs have to become proactive, and they have established their identity all over the world. All over the world now, people think the Sikhs have a heart to help people. The Sikhs have the mental ability, mental capability, supported by their feeling in their heart to serve the humanity. That's the purpose of Sikh religion. That was the message of Guru Nanak. So other thing, they should basically oppose strongly where our people say, oh, Sikhs are part of Hindus. And I tell them that's absolutely wrong. That's absolutely incorrect, because Sikhism is a separate religion. Their argument is, or maybe the Sikhs long 500 years ago ancestors may be belonging to another religion. That's in every religion. When Buddhas became Buddhas, they were not Hindus after they changed their religion. Maybe before there was something else. Similarly, Christianity came out of other religions. Similarly, Islam came of other religions. That doesn't mean that Muslims are, let's say, Christians. But you can say Christians are Jews. So when a new formulation has taken place, it's irreversible. So India should stop saying that, because it's an insult to a Sikh saying that, oh, Hindus or Sikhs are Hindus. Anytime any person says, oh, Sikhs are part of Hindus, that's the biggest insult to Sikhs. And they should stop this false narrative. Another thing, that all the mythological past, imagined things, they are living upon, and they're changing history. And I think the Sikhs must be strong. They must fight for their rights. Join the institution they want to support. They should support Sikh for justice. They should support the Khalistan referendum, because the only solution to all these problems is only one. That's independence of Punjab Khalistan. And Punjab Khalistan, the method is Khalistan referendum. And the instrument is the ballot. The ballot is stronger than any bomb the India has. So it's for the whole Sikh nation. And all those Sikhs who are basically sitting on the fence, they have to come to the side of Punjab as an independent country. If they are basically double-minded, they're damaging the Sikh cause. Anybody who says, oh, Sikhs belong to India, they're hurting the Sikh cause. They are damaging Sikh identity. They are damaging country of Punjab. So let's all get together, liberate country of Punjab from Indian occupation, and then we will be most prosperous, and then we'll be able to help the whole world with equal rights, social equality, gender equality, religious freedom. Then we can able ourselves to do more good in the whole world and the human society.
So, as you rightly say, there is only one solution, that of Khalistan. But unfortunately, there we must leave it. But we will be talking again with Dr. Sandhu soon to continue our discussion. Dr.
Thank you, Scott, for having me on your program.
It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks so much for joining us. And thank you for watching the SATLUJ TV podcast. We will see you next time.